Uh-huh. Shabbat Shalom, family. Shabbat Shalom. That's right. Today is Shabbat. And I want to let you know that we are here for the Shabbat. And got a few things we want to go into, but you know how we do. First off, federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, and exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use and is allowed for the purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, parody, which doesn't infringe on the copyright under Section 17 USC 107. All right. We want to remember always keep our heads down and our hands up. Men ought always to pray, speaking to themselves in psalms, songs, and spiritual hymns, always praying to the Father. You know how we do. We keep our head in these scriptures every day. We tear these scripts up. We need to be adequate swordsmen as we move into these perilous times. You know, I want to say that it's good to be back with you. I have been on a break for a while, and you guys know my mother died, and I started a company, and I've been ultra busy, but I've been studying and keeping my head in these scriptures. I'm a part of a group of elders. We do a prayer session every day. You know, I'm with the Hope of Israel congregation now and have been for the last couple of years. You see me periodically post things from Rabbi Yonah Golab. And so today, I thought that it was time that we come back and we spend some time with you and start to go over some things and spend some time going over some things and just talking about stuff. So today, I want to say Shabbat Shalom, first of all. Yes, today is Shabbat. Today is Shabbat. I know that might be hard for a lot of you to wrap your head around, but today is Shabbat. How do we know? Because last week, we spotted the new moon. And Israel, we go by the luminaries. We go by the sun, the moon, and the stars. We don't go by the Roman Greco calendar. So Shabbat is not going to be on a Saturn's day, which is, you know, that's a Greek god that they worship, you know. And so Saturn's day, which is typically known as Saturday, is not the day. Okay, so it's a bit of a stretch for a lot of people to wrap their head around, but once you get it and you read the book of Enoch and you study other, you know, you have the layout for the sun, moon, and the stars in Genesis. So as you go through the scriptures and you start to pull these things apart, you know, and you start to look at what Enoch had to say about it, and you look at the evening and the morning were the first day. As you move through these things, you'll start to see that it's not a particular day as the Roman Greco calendar would have you believe. The Mother Church, the Catholic Church, had everybody worshiping on Sunday, and then the Seventh-day Adventists and others who go with the seventh day started landing it on a Saturday and calling it Shabbat. But it truly isn't. Trust me, it truly isn't. And even if you don't trust me, I don't want you to trust me. I want you to do the research and go figure it out and find out for yourself. But that's not why we're here. The reason why we're here today is because there's some things that we are noticing, and not just me. I'm just saying that we, as a people, are noticing these things in the earth today. And in the earth today, put in my pack in my pocket so it doesn't fall off. We have a battery pack here that needs to be nearby. Otherwise, microphones can go flying and things. In the earth today, we're starting to notice various different things, right? And in our scriptures, we were told to pay attention to these things as they occurred. Okay? So as these things occurred, we're supposed to be looking at these things as they go. So how do we look at these things as they go? If we are not paying attention to, you know, some of the other portions of it as it goes, and we should be, right? So if we're supposed to be seeing these things and we're supposed to be looking at them, then how do we know what it is that we're looking at? We have to go to the scriptures, right? How do we know? We got to go to the scriptures. So as we go to the scriptures, this is the things that we want to be paying attention to. Okay, so let's look at this real quick. And Yeshua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Yeshua said unto them, See ye not all these things? Surely, or verily, I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone standing upon another that shall not be thrown down. Okay, and we know that the temple was destroyed 70 A.D. Titus and Vespasian came through and sacked the city. We're going to be going back into Flavius Josephus, looking at this, because when I was doing the reading on Flavius Josephus, remember I was saying that Vespasian didn't want to ruin the city. Jerusalem was the jewel of the east there, and he didn't want to ruin the city. He just wanted the people to just submit. We're Rome, we're going to take the city. And one of the things that Rome would do when they would take a city, even if they didn't want to tear the city down, one thing, they would snatch down a wall. And that was symbolic to say, you've been taken. We would just tear this wall down. Now, the wall would be rebuilt later on, it certainly would, but in the initial phases of it, Rome has taken your city. Rome has taken your wall, okay? And as you read Flavius Josephus, you'll see that they've gone to certain cities, and those cities submitted to them. But what Vespasian did, or what Titus did, it depended upon which one, because it was a Roman thing, take the wall down, okay? They would break through that wall, and then everyone would know we've been defeated. We have to succumb to Rome, okay? So a lot of people don't know that about this particular thing. So when they did come into the city, there was a civil war going on. And we were reading through that in the book of Flavius Josephus, which we'll pick up again. There was a civil war going on between the Hebrews, or the Jews, in the city. They were fighting each other. There was a faction going on. Part of them were holed up in the temple, and the other part were trying to take them and get them out of the temple. But there was robbers, thieves, and thugs in the temple, okay? But when Rome came, they banded together to fight against Rome, to kick Rome out. So Titus and Vespasian sat outside the city and said, listen, they're fighting each other in there. We'll just sit back here and wait. And then when there's not so many of them, we'll go in there and take the city. So, but when they came in to take the city, they fought them again. But they had dwindled their numbers so much that Rome took them. Okay? And at that point, they were angry, and the men of Rome they hated the Hebrews so much that they wanted to fight them anyway, even though Vespasian was like, look, let's not even, let's don't even do it. But the blood of the Roman men was so high and so thirsty that even though he said, don't kill anybody, when the mob runs. And even though he was the one in control, when the fighting started, he couldn't stop everybody from fighting. And so they went in there and they tore the city apart. Okay, and then they tore down the temple and razed it and, set it on fire and all that other stuff. And we'll get to that back in Flavius Josephus. But let's look at this. He said not one stone will be left upon another, right? That's what he said. It won't be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, his disciples, that's the 12, came to him privately. See, they came to him privately. It wasn't everybody. He had more than just 12 people following him. He chose 12. But remember, John the Baptist's disciples had latched on to him as well, and then half of them walked away. So that still left quite a few people hanging on to him, as his following, saying, tell us, when will these things be, and what shall be the sign of your coming and the end of the world? What world? Not the end of the world, but the end of the age of the Roman rule, the end of the age of Esau's rule, the end of the age before Jacob stands up and takes his rightful place again. What will be the sign of your coming and the end of that political world age? Because Esau's the end, Jacob is the beginning. So they're asking him this. And Yeshua answered and said unto them, first thing out of his mouth, take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Mashiach. Many will come saying that he is the deliverer, he is the savior, and they'll deceive many. And you'll hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you not be troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Now, family, if you remember, this is one of the mainstays of why I do what I do. I continually hammer this point home. This is the time in which we're living in. We're living right now in this, where it says, many will come in my name and say that he is Hamashiach. How many people are running around here now that are saying, yes, he is? That is, I don't use that word, what they have written right there. I don't use that. I don't. Many will say he is that. He is the Savior. He is the Redeemer. We got plenty. We got Jerry Falwell. We got Creflo Dollar. We got T.D. Jakes. We got a plethora of false prophets running around here saying, yes, he's the one, right? They're saying it, but how are they leading people? They're leading people to prosperity messages. They're leading people to visionary. They're leading you to meditate on this and meditate on that. Some are even sitting there in lotus positions doing the Om. I mean, and these are supposed to be our spiritual leaders, right? So he's saying, take heed that no man deceive you, because there's tons of them out there saying that he is who he is, but they're deceiving people. That's why we have to stay in these scriptures. That's why we have to know who we are. That's why we have to know who he is, so that we can continue to walk in this. Family, look, these are perilous times. We've got to listen. A lot of people are so busy allowing Pastor Porkchop to tell them what the scriptures say, rather than sitting down and reading it for themselves. Okay, I know some sisters right now who are straight swordsmen, who will cut you up with this word. Okay, because they know where stuff is. They know where things are. They're well studied. Okay. But in Israel, the women know where, there's an order, there's a hierarchy. They know, where they're supposed to be. There's an order in this. And so they can't just come right out and just start teaching everybody. They can do this among themselves. But that's another study. Okay. But the thing of it is that he's saying, don't be deceived by all of these people who are coming for, all these ministers or these shepherds who are coming forth saying that he is the Messiah, saying that he is the salvation of the world, because he is. And what he wanted them to do was to realize that this was going to happen, and there were going to be many who were going to deceive them. And he says in 24:6, he said, you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Okay. In 24:6, he said, you're going to hear of wars. You're going to hear rumors of wars. All right. Now, here's the thing. Okay. When you're looking at these wars and rumors of wars, okay, this is what because this is what's going on right now. This is what's going on right now. All right. I mean, look, everywhere in the world, China and Hong Kong. I mean, this is what's going on right now. Right? We got the Russian Navy conducting major maneuvers near Alaska. Isn't that the American border? Okay. This is not anything new. This is wars and rumors of wars. You see, this is by Vladimir Ishkinov, and this is today. This is AP News today. I pulled this up today, family. Let's look at this. Okay. Let's look. Moscow, AP. Associated Press is AP, okay? Moscow. The Russian Navy conducted major war games near Alaska involving dozens of ships and aircraft, the military said Friday, the biggest such drills in the area since Soviet times. Russia's Navy chief, Admiral Nikolai Yevmenov, said that more than 50 warships and about 40 aircraft were taking part in the exercise in the Bering Sea, which involved multiple practice missile launches. We are holding such massive drills there for the first time ever, Yevmenov said in a statement released by the Russian Defense Ministry. It wasn't immediately clear what the exercises or when the exercises began or if they are finished. But look at this, okay? You shall hear, Mishpachah, you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Okay? This is Matthew 24:6. You shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you not be troubled. For all these things, what things? The wars and the rumors of wars must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Okay? So now, here we go. Now, I keep hammering this. We talk about this. For nation shall rise against nation. The Greek for nation is ethnos. That's where we get our word ethnicity from. This is people against people. This is race against race. This is internal fighting, right, of the citizenry. You know, Japanese against Hispanic, against Hebrews, against Hamites, against Shemites, against Germans, this is nations of people against, this is ethnicities against ethnicities, right? Because if it was kingdom, it wouldn't say nation. Kingdom is a king's dominion. Those are countries. So nations, let me find it. Nations, for many shall come, and you shall hear wars, rumors. All right, I'm gonna drag this down just a little bit because I want to get this right in your face so you can see it. Wars and rumors of wars, nations, right here. Greek word. It says Greek 1486, a race as of the same habit. That is a tribe, specifically a foreign, non-Jewish or non-Hebrew, one usually by implication pagan, Gentile, heathen, nation, people. Okay, I keep telling you guys, this is not a country. Nation is not a country. It's not talking about America versus Britain versus, it's a people, a tribe, specifically a foreign, usually a Gentile, non-Hebraic, goyim, nation, ethnos, ethnicity. It's ethnos. See the word right there? Ethnos. That's where we get our word ethnic from, right? Kingdom is a king's dominion. It's the Greek word basilia. It's properly royalty. Well, hello, who has royalty? Kings. It's a rule. Concretely, it's a realm. It's a kingdom it's a reign. That's a country. Come on, people. Get with this. So we're going to have nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. Okay? So when these things break out, it's going to break out in a way that no one has ever seen before. Right? Nation against nation. Are we seeing that now? Are we seeing police shoot brothers in the back 7 times? Are we seeing this break out against us? And they're trying to start a race war over and over and over again. This is what we see. Then we see kingdom against kingdom. Now, are we seeing that? We got Russia playing war games in the Atlantic Sea, or in the right off the Alaska coast. You know, we got China going in on Hong Kong. You know, you got America going in on Syria, and they want to go after Iraq next. You got those are kingdoms, those are dominions, those are realms, and then there will be famines. You think there won't be a famine? Look at this. Everybody's staying home from COVID, right? Now, you got everybody staying home from COVID. There's your pestilences. You know, there's your diseases. You know, you start getting diseases, you start getting flies, you start getting maggots, you start getting all these things. The famine is going to come next. But it's not only going to be a famine for food, it's also going to be a famine for the word, right? We got earthquakes in diverse places. We got all these things going on, but these are the beginning of sorrows. This is that means that there are sorrows that are going to come, but this is the beginning of the sorrows. Those sorrows are going to be way, way deep. He says, then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Let me ask you something. Right now. Because I just want to know. Somebody tell me, are we not being delivered up to these idiots? Are we not hated right now? Hebrews? Do they love us? They don't like us. They don't like us. The same way they hung our Messiah on a tree, we get hung in trees. They've been finding brothers swinging lately. 2,000 years later, we find them brothers swinging. 200 years later from slavery, we find them brothers swinging. And a couple of them right here in California. So come on, family. Come on. The scriptures tell us who we are. The scriptures tell us what's going on. It's like reading tomorrow's newspaper today. Okay? All you have to do is read it. I keep hammering this point home over and over and over and over again. Half the time I get on here and I'm talking to you guys, this is what I'm talking about. Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21. All three of them. He says, my word is verified in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21. This right here. This right here. This is the next page. This is where we are today. This is the stuff that's going on. I mean, look, we got to pay attention to everything that the law and the prophets says. Okay, everything that the prophets and the prior writers and the Tanakh and the Torah. We listen to all of that. But this is right now. This is today. This is where we live. We have to pay attention to this. This is the beginning of sorrows. You know, when the apostles were walking around, they were reading the prophecies that were written prior that were conducive to the times in which they were living. Okay? Yeshua stepped up in the temple, opened up the book, and says and read what was specific to him right then at that time. I am the one that has come to liberate the people. Okay? He starts reading from the scriptures for that was conducive to the time in which he was living, and then he closed the book. He come to set the captives free, free those that were in prison. He want to free your mind, free your body, let you understand who you are, tell you that your Mashiach has arrived, but they didn't know that at the time. They didn't realize that he was, because he didn't come the way that they expected him to come. But all of the prophets and all of the apostles and all of the disciples who were at that time, they didn't have a New Testament. All they had was the scriptures. They had the law and the prophets. That's all they had. So when they were teaching, and Yeshua says, lo, I'm in the volume of the book, they were using the law and the prophets. They didn't have a New Testament. There was no Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which were not a testament or new books. The writings of Paul were not books. They were just letters. They were epistles. When you open them up, it's the epistle to this, the epistle to that. An epistle is a letter. It's not a book. But it's been used and placed in this is the New Testament. This is the new covenant. No. They agree with and testify to what's happening in the Tanakh. But you see, in the law and the prophets were never considered old. Roman Catholic Church did that to you. Gave you a New Testament and an Old Testament. Like there's well, you don't have to worry about the Old Covenant because that's done away with. Here's the New Covenant. No. All the disciples had, all they ever had was the law and the prophets. They had the Tanakh. They had what you call the Old Testament. That's all they ever had. And so in those scriptures, they used then what was conducive for them that day. Like we're using Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21 right now, which is conducive for us this day. We use the same book. We use the whole book. We certainly do. But in order for us to make it through, they came to him and said, tell us. So that means that we're supposed to know this. He's talking to the disciples. Are you not a student of the word? Are you not a disciple of Yeshua HaMashiach? Are you not one of his followers? If you are, then that's you talking to him. Tell us what's going to happen prior to your coming. And then he's saying to them, take heed. Listen, pay attention. These things are going to happen to you. 24:8. These are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted and shall kill you. And you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Yes. Hebrews, you are being killed. And you are hated of all nations. They cannot stand us. Okay? Oh, they'll smile in your face and they'll give you some pork chop sandwiches. You'll make some ham sandwiches. They'll have you eating all the stuff you're not supposed to eat. right? And then when a brother like me comes along and tell you that you got to put your ham down, and you want to get mad. I don't eat my ham. I like my pork. Okay, fine. You know, but the scriptures tell you not to touch it. Well, the law is done away with. Man, look here. Someone just told me, look, the law is done away with. Okay, but you highfalutin in your apostolic church, the law is done away with, but you guys still celebrate Passover. What is that? If the law is done away with, then why are you celebrating Passover? What is that? How if the law is done away with, then you don't need to celebrate Passover, right? Right? I mean, so what is sin? Sin is the transgression of the law. So if the law is done away with, then that means that there is no law, and that means there is no sin. Yet you still say that, it's a sin for you to live together and not be married. So if that's a sin, then that means there must still be law. Because I hear you apostolics talking about that. And I'm not coming at you just because you're apostolic. I have a family member that is apostolic, and I'm speaking on that level. I hear the apostolic say that you can't live together. That's a sin. That's a sin. You got to get married. You got to put a ring on her finger. Well, that's a pagan situation anyway. Putting a ring on the finger. You don't see anybody having a marriage ceremony in Israel, and when you read the scriptures where they got to go before a preacher, put a ring on the finger, and say some vows. You don't see that in Israel. You don't see that anywhere in the scriptures, but that's what they tell you, and that's what you do, right? So if living together is a sin, without being married, if that's a sin, sin is a transgression of the law. So if there's still sin, that means there's still law, right? So this is the part that I struggle with when I listen to people, trying to talk to me about these scriptures. And I'm like, where's your swordsmanship? Don't you have any understanding? If sin is sin, then the scriptures say that sin is a transgression of the law. That means that there's still law. What do you mean the law is done away with? How is that even possible? If the law is done away with, then there is no sin. That means you can do whatever the heck you want to do. Live lawlessly. Because the law is done away with. That means you can live lawlessly on every count. But they use certain things. It's a sin for a woman to wear pants. Okay, sin is transgression of the law. So that means the law is still there. If she's wearing pants and that's a sin, then the law is still there. It's a sin for a woman to wear makeup. Okay, then that means the law is still there. It's a sin for you to have sex before marriage. Okay, that means that the law is still there. So they use all these things. This is the deception of men. Take heed that no man deceive you. This is how they deceive you into casting the law aside. No, you're supposed to still keep the laws, statutes, and commandments. It says so in the scriptures. The same scriptures that they read out the New Testament will tell you that when Yeshua comes again, he comes to find those keeping the faith and the testament of Yeshua HaMashiach and those keeping the commandments. Okay, it says so in Revelation. It says so in many other books. But yet they, it's this left brain, right brain thing. They want to confuse you with that. And if you're not studied, if you don't read the scriptures, or you're not under a good teacher, you're gonna miss this all the time. You're gonna miss it every time. Okay, so looking at this. 24:10, then shall many be offended. Yeah, people are going to get butthurt. They're going to have their booty on their shoulders and shall betray one another and shall hate one another. Why? Well, he's a believer. My man down the street. Yeah. He claimed to be one of them Yahwehs. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. We got that now. You got TD Snakes, Creflo, Creeplo and his dollar. And because iniquity, wickedness shall abound, the love of many shall wax or grow cold. But he that shall endure until the what? He that shall endure until the end, that same shall be saved. Saved from what? saved from the destruction that's about to come on the world when Yeshua HaMashiach come back. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached into the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. Okay, when you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel stand in the holy place, he so readeth understand. Now here's the thing. The abomination of desolation has happened in the temple. Okay, the abomination of desolation has happened in the temple. And it continues to happen in the temple. Okay, but Yeshua is talking about an abomination of desolation that is happening during the time that he's speaking of right here. Okay, so you got 24:15. Now remember, our scriptures were just one continuous read. We didn't have periods and commas and broken into chapters and all of that madness, right? He said the gospel of the kingdom is going to be preached in all the world for a witness, and then the end's going to come. He said, when you therefore see. So this is a continued thought. There's no break up here like we see here on the page. There's no break. He says, so when you there, after all this happened, when you see this go down, spoken of by the prophet Daniel, when you see that abomination stand in the holy place, let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Now that's happened already. Okay, but the scriptures tell us. See, here's where your understanding comes in. This is what I want you to understand. Here's where your understanding comes in. Okay? The scriptures tell us there is nothing new under the sun. What has been shall be again. So that means that even though this has occurred, he's speaking like this is about to go down. When you see all this happen, then this is what's coming next. Even though it's already happened. They profaned the temple when they were offering pig on the altar. That was an abomination of desolation right there. Okay, but this abomination of desolation that he's talking about is a different one. There's going to be another kind of pig, another type of pig on the altar when this happens. You see, so when this goes down, this is what he's talking about right here. So let them which are in the, let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which be on the housetop not come down and take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to get his clothes. And woe to them that are with child. You got a baby, and those that give suck. You got those you're nursing in those days. Pray that your flight not be in the winter, because now you got a baby, and you got a baby that's on the titty, and now you're trying to run in the wintertime. And even if it's on the Sabbath, on the Shabbat. Okay, because you know what we do on the Shabbat. On the Shabbat, we chilling and we cooling out. But all of a sudden, you got to pack up and bounce. You got to pack up and leave. He says, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time. No, nor shall ever be. And except those days, what days? Those days of tribulation. When we see all of this that's going down, this abomination cracks off. And then all of a sudden, he said, if those days weren't shortened, then no flesh. So he's not talking about the flesh of the world. He's talking about the flesh of Israel. No Israeli flesh, no Israelite flesh shall be saved. But for the elect of who? The elect Israel, the elect of Israel. Okay, those days shall be shortened. So here's what I want you to understand. Okay, not all skin is kin. Okay, not all skin is kin. And not all kin is skin. We have some family members. I have some family members who will not accept this truth. Okay? I got a BMW sitting on 13s. Got my Dayton's on it, laid up with gold things. I got family members who will not accept this truth. I got family members who are stuck in Christian insanity, Christian sanity. I got family members who are stuck in other types of religions. You see, this is not a religion. This is our culture. This is our heritage. This script, this book, this is written to us. It's written to no one else but us. Only to the house of Israel. only to the house of Israel, not written to no Baptists, no Episcopalian, no AMEs. It's not written to anyone else but the 12 tribes of Israel. Yeshua told his disciples, you go after the scattered house of Israel. What is that? That's 12 tribes. That's the 10 northern kingdoms and the 2.5 lower kingdoms. And so you had the northern kingdom with the 10 tribes, and you had Judah and Benjamin with a little bit of Levi scattered in there, in the lower kingdom, in the southern kingdom, Telerad, where the temple is now. Hashra Mario brought that out. It's there now, and they've turned it into a tourist attraction since it's been found. Okay, but if it's the tourist attraction of the old Jerusalem, then what's the other Jerusalem? That's the tourist attraction. That's the one that everyone knew about until this came out, 10, 15 years back. Now they're trying to explain it away. Oh, yes, well, so you can pay money and go visit. Because it's all about revenue to them. But they still want to tell you that the Edomite Jerusalem that they take you to is the actual Jerusalem. But we got the Southern Temple in Tel Arad that's been exposed now, and they've turned that into a tourist attraction. And they've got people trampling all through the Holy of Holies. So now they're recognizing there was a northern temple and a southern temple, but they're saying that, oh, no, this is the true Jerusalem here. That's just the southern temple. Well, no, the southern temple is where Jerusalem was. That was the city of Jebus. So, it's a big mind game is what they're playing, okay? And we're not in control of that, not yet. And so the Most High is allowing the Edomites to do what they got to do before he comes back and takes possession of all of this and puts them in their place, okay? So Matthew 24:22, except those days be shortened, that no flesh should be saved, but for the elect of Israel, those days are shortened. Then if any man shall say unto you, lo, here is Mashiach, or there, he said, believe it not. For there shall rise many false of those, and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it was possible, even the very elect should be deceived. Now, here's the thing. Have we seen anybody showing these signs and wonders yet? He says right here, many false Christs and prophets are going to show up. So the next thing that we're supposed to be seeing, is people who've got these powers. Powers like Chris Angel, who apparently floats across atriums in hotels, who apparently levitates people on the streets of Las Vegas, who apparently walks on water, who apparently does all these things. Okay? Now, I'll tell you that I used to watch David Copperfield disappear elephants and airplanes and all of these other things, and then David Copperfield disappeared for a while. And then I found out that David Copperfield spent some time down in South America with the shamans, and they taught him the secrets of the circle. Inside the circle in the ring of fire, and all of a sudden when David Copperfield showed up again, he was doing these particular acts, for lack of a better word. He was doing these particular acts. And he was showing that he had studied with them and had picked up some dark art. Witchcraft. Magic is witchcraft. Necromancy. That's what magic is. So when David Copperfield, when I saw him all of a sudden doing things in the circle, I said, oh, you've been with the shamans. They taught you some dark arts. You got some witchcraft going on now. See, because sleight of hand is sleight of hand. You can fool the mind by moving your hand in such a way. But that's not magic. That's just sleight of hand. You've just confused somebody's mind. But when you go and you start playing with these demonic forces and you learn this witchcraft, this necromancy, and you start using it, then that's a different story. So we're talking about people who show great signs and wonders. These false Christs, false saviors, and false prophets all of a sudden can snap their fingers and lightning come out of the sky. All of a sudden, because see, that's a dark art. In so much that if it were possible, they should deceive the very elect. You see, the operative word is if it were possible. If it were possible, they should deceive the very elect. That means a lot of people are going to be deceived, but not the elect, not the very elect. 25, behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say to you, behold, he's in the desert, go not forth. He's in the secret chambers, don't believe it. As lightning comes out of the east and shines even into the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. For wherever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. So those dead things, that wherever those dead things are, that's where the eagles are going to fly. Okay, so the eagles and the vultures are flesh-eating beasts. So wherever you find these people doing their dark arts, that's where you're going to find the crowds of individuals. So when people are flocking to go see all of these magic, believe me, I've got the word. And no, don't flock behind them. For wherever they are, those dead things, that's where the eagles are going to be. That's where all of the vultures, the ones who want to eat the dead things. We serve a living Messiah. We serve a living Elohim. So everything that's going to be about him is going to be about life. Okay? Nothing dead. So that's the thing that I want to talk about, right? We're living in the end times, and this is the stuff that we're seeing. These are the things that we're going to see. So we got wars and rumors of wars. We got a nation against nation, which we see all the time. With the Black Lives Matter situation, right? This is what we're looking at. We got people in the streets. They're going crazy out here, okay? And so the other thing that I want to talk to you about, because we got famines and pestilence, okay? The WHO, the World Health Organization, has held a briefing on the coronavirus, okay? So let's see what this briefing on the coronavirus actually is. All right, let's see what this is. And I'm going to try to play this video. Let's see what this is about.
UN languages plus Portuguese and Hindi, and we will be posting the Director General's remarks and an audio file of the press conference on the web as soon as possible. Transcripts will also be available later. So now, without further delay, I will hand over to Dr. Tedros to give you his opening remarks. Dr. Tedros, you have the floor.
Thank you, Margareta. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Tuesday was a great day in global health. The certification of the eradication of wild poliovirus in Africa. This remarkable effort was started by Rotary International in the 1980s and advanced by Nelson Mandela in 1996 with the launch of a campaign to kick polio out of Africa. At that time, polio paralyzed 75,000 children every year. Although sadly he is not here to see it, we have realized Madiba's dream. This extraordinary achievement has only been possible because of the determination of the people and governments of Africa and the strong partnership between WHO, Rotary, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, UNICEF, Gavi, and the US CDC. I would also like to acknowledge the many donors who have invested in making.
Wait a minute, okay. Did you hear him say the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation? Okay. That's the gates of hell, creating all these viruses and wants to mandatorily vaccinate everybody. So we're here. This is the Director General of the World Health Organization thanking the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Okay, I just had to stop that on that one. Okay.
This possible. including Australia, Canada, the European Union, France, Italy, Germany, Japan, Norway, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Spain, the United Arab Emirates, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America, and others. But the investments we have all made have not only helped to end polio, they have also helped to strengthen health systems, providing vital infrastructure and health workers to respond to other crises, including Ebola and COVID-19. The end of wild polio virus in Africa is a momentous achievement that demonstrates what's possible when we come together in a spirit of solidarity. But it's not the end of polio globally. We still have a lot of work to do to eradicate polio from the last two countries where it exists, Afghanistan and Pakistan. Polio is not the only disease against which we're making progress. Yesterday, we also celebrated the end of sleeping sickness in Togo as a public health problem. I would like to use this opportunity to congratulate the people and government of Togo and their partners on this achievement. Sleeping sickness, or human African trypanosomiasis, is a neglected tropical disease spread by tsetse flies and is endemic in 36 African countries. Without treatment, it's fatal. 7 other countries are preparing to submit their dossier to show they too have eliminated sleeping sickness as a public health problem. Benin, Cameroon, Ghana, Mali, Rwanda, Uganda, and Equatorial Guinea. A further 3 countries have announced their intentions to do so: Burkina Faso, Kenya, and Chad. This is incredible progress against a disease which was considered impossible to eliminate just 20 years ago. Globally, we need the same spirit of solidarity and partnership that are helping to end polio and sleeping sickness, to end the COVID-19 pandemic. As societies open up, many are starting to see a resurgence of transmission. Much of this resurgence is occurring in clusters of cases related to gatherings of people, including at stadiums, nightclubs, places of worship, and crowds. These types of gatherings can be amplifying events that can be the spark that creates a much larger fire. Every country and community must make its own decisions about how to host these events safely, based on their own level of risk. In some circumstances, closures or suspending events may be necessary for a short time. In others, there are creative ways events can be held safely to minimize risk. The Hajj pilgrimage, for example, went ahead with limited numbers of
All
people
right.
who were physically
I've had enough of listening
Some
to
sport-
this brother over here, Kunin, Ghebreyesus. Ghebreyesus is his last name. Ghebreyesus. I've had enough of listening to him Kunin. Okay, so listen. All right, listen. He's naming off all of these diseases. Okay. And then he finally got down to the coronavirus. Okay. And saying that all of these things and all of these people, we're talking about the people who need to help eradicate it, like polio. Okay. Well, first of all, science has already shown, and when we have the videos for it, because we download those videos, not only me but others, that shows that the polio virus, not to say that there was no polio virus, just like to say that there is no coronavirus. But here's the thing: it's a bioweapon, and the government uses it as a weapon against the people. So what they did was to make the polio look like it was so deadly. When they were giving people vaccines, they were shooting them with the polio. Okay, so you're getting a smallpox vaccination, but the smallpox vaccination got polio in it. So when your smallpox goes away, all of a sudden you show up with polio, and they're like, look, see, all of a sudden there's, and then all these people start popping up with polio. See, there's an epidemic. Well, that's because they gave it to you in another shot. I'm going to have to play the video on that one for you. And this is what they're doing with the COVID situation. I watched Dr. Buttar do a talk, and they don't let Dr. Buttar talk because they've kicked him off of every other platform, so he started his own platform, so they can't kick him off of that, right? But because he came out saying that, just like with Dr. Mikovits, that the AIDS epidemic was a bioweapon, and she knew it because she worked on it. And when she came out against it and said, no, it's not what they're telling you it is, they shut her down and put her in jail. They locked her up to shut her up. So when Dr. Buttar came out with his, talking about what the COVID situation is, they kicked him off of every platform. So when you went to go get your flu shot, like when they say, okay, so swine flu, but in there was COVID-12. Then you had bird flu, but in there was COVID-14. And then you had H1N1, but in there was COVID-15. So COVID-12, COVID-14, and COVID-15 cumulatively will set you up for COVID-19. As soon as you caught a cold, your system was broke down enough from 12, 14, and 15 for it to develop into 19. And all of a sudden, all these people started, because everybody who died from COVID-19 had gotten a flu shot, had gotten successive flu shots. The cumulative effect of those flu shots gave you COVID-19. So COVID-19 is not the problem. COVID-19 is the result of SARS. So when you got tested for SARS, you would come up with COVID-2. If you had gotten any of the other flu shots, then that would turn into 19. Because 19, when it's full blown, is a pneumonia, and that's your lungs filling up with fluid. So my son just got out the hospital a month back with pneumonia. And he didn't have COVID-19. You want to know why? Because he never got any flu shots. We don't take flu shots. Now, my son's he's not walking in this truth. But I taught my boys early, even my stepsons, that's why I say my boys. I taught them early the same things that I'm talking to you about out in Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21. I taught this to them before they went into the military, talking the same stuff, telling them, listen, this is what you be on the lookout for. And my boys never took flu shots. I'm like, if you get sick, you get sick. There's ways to fight your sickness, and I taught them how. From 9 years old to 17 years old, I taught them how. So when my son got pneumonia, he just had regular pneumonia. I said, don't let them try to tell you that you got COVID. He says, no, man, I don't have COVID. They tested me for it. My girl went to the hospital a couple of days ago. Last week. I can't remember, but it was recently, within the last 4 or 5 days. Okay? And they tested her with so much stuff. And she says, I don't know what this is. And I said, they tested you for COVID. I looked at it. I saw it. She showed me her paperwork. And I'm like, yeah, they tested you for COVID. They wanted to see what you had. But you see, if you don't take flu shots, you're not going to see it. Now, my mother got flu shots regularly. But when Mama died before they considered the outbreak of COVID-19. Okay? Because had it come, she would have had it. But she passed away right before. So Mama died December 9th. COVID didn't hit until March. Okay? So this is what I'm saying to you is that we have to pay attention to the stuff that they're bringing down the pike. Okay? The World Health Organization is talking about COVID-19 and the coronavirus, right? But they're not doing anything for us. Okay? And every time Bill and Melinda Gates put together a vaccine, the first place they want to run to is Africa. And they want to try it on little chocolate babies. They don't go over to the Swiss Alps and anywhere in Europe and push that stuff into the veins of them little white kids over there that's starving? Do they? No, because it's about population control. And Bill Gates is always talking about we need to give them tools, and maybe we can keep the family small, and mothers will think twice about having as many children, right? But they're only talking about us thinking twice about having as many children. They're not talking about themselves. They don't population control the European race. They population control, the people they consider poor. And when poor is a code word for us. Okay? Like they say, the less fortunate, the poor, the old and the elderly, all of that stuff points to minority groups. That all points to us. Lucifer has had a plan from the beginning, from day one, to eradicate the house of Israel. He never liked mankind in the first place. But now that the Father has placed his love on one group of people, one seed, one branch, he hates us more the less. That's why we're the ones that get delivered up, and we're the ones that end up in chains, and we're the ones that swing from trees, and we're the ones that get shot in the back 7 times. We're the ones that take all the bullets and take all the heat. It's us. It's no one else. It's us. All around the world, there's only one people that this has ever happened to. We're the only ones that fit the bill. No one else can say that they, as a people, have suffered the atrocities that we have suffered. No one. Only we. And we can say thousands of years back, coming forward. Your little group might have a little something for maybe 25 years, 50 years or something, but we can go all the way back to the Assyrian captivity and beyond. That we are those people. Because we're a chosen house, and we are hated above all nations. Like the scripture says, you will be hated above all nations. Nations, groups of people. Nations, tribes, and families will be hated above all nations. That's what the scriptures just said. We read it. Okay? So now, off of that, we've got these hurricanes that just slammed into Lake Charles, Louisiana. And we got a lot of Hebrews over in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Okay? Now, my sister in South Carolina told me that that a lot of Lake Charles had been evacuated. Okay? Let's listen to what these happy-go-lucky looking folk got to say about what happened to these Hebrews in Lake Charles.
Before Laura even made landfall, frontline workers, FEMA responders, they were already stretched thin dealing with the wildfires in California and, of course, the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. Now we're in the thick of hurricane season. So we want to bring in internal medicine Dr. Shoshana Unger-Leider to talk a little bit about this. Doctor, now we've got, sort of a layering on of yet another crisis for our emergency personnel to deal with. And all I could think when I heard about how damaging this storm could be, specifically for some areas where they used, phrases like unsurvivable storm surge, which means if you're there, you got to get out. I thought, how are you going to move people en masse out of an area that's being threatened? Find a location for them. Usually these shelters, people are sort of stacked right next to each other. You can't do that anymore in the middle of a pandemic. And of course, the issue of taking people perhaps from a area that is sort of struggling with the pandemic and moving them to an area that has the coronavirus under control. All of these things are pretty risky.
That's right, Anne-Marie. Moving large numbers of people from their homes during COVID is incredibly challenging. We know emergency shelters and crowded hospitals can easily become hotspots for new COVID-19 outbreaks. So it's critical right now that that evacuees have access to safe places to go, whether it's a socially distanced shelter, to a friend or relative's home, or to a hotel. But given that COVID has put so many Americans into a situation where money is tight, this makes paying for a hotel or spending the extra cash on gas even harder. And we know that flooding, which often comes with these storm surges, disproportionately impacts minorities and low-income residents who often live in low-lying areas or in neighborhoods that don't have green space to absorb that extra water. So, the bottom line is that the pandemic is presenting some incredibly complex challenges for everyone during this storm, and FEMA and our other disaster relief agencies are certainly being stretched, as you mentioned, to their limits with what's going on here.
And Dr. Ungerleider, this is something we've talked about before, but what about minority communities that have been heavily impacted by COVID-19?
Well, I mean, the challenges, as I mentioned, are even greater. We know that that lower income populations, minorities, often do live in these lower lying spaces where storm surges that can lead to massive flooding is very dangerous.
Huh. So you heard that, right? Minorities who live in these lower lying areas. I'm telling you, they know who they're talking about us every time. She's saying all this with a smile on her face, right? But she's sitting at home comfortably, probably living in a house on a hill, right? Old dude sitting behind him, he's comfortable as he can be. He got his guitars hanging on the wall, But knowing that they were going to be talking about, people of color, they start off with a sister that looked white, right? The World Health Organization dude, we know that, he's a man of color, right? Sitting there reading from a teleprompter, trying to make it seem like he's talking and it's all really him. No, you can see his eyes moving. He's reading from a teleprompter, right? This chick is sitting here smiling, trying to tell her story. She's in San Francisco. She's probably, living on the north side of the city where there's no fire threat up against the coast. I'm here. I drive through the fire area every day. Okay? I'm here. It's smoky outside. I'm on the edge of a lake, and some mornings I can't even see the mountains on the other side of the lake because of the smoke. It's crazy how these people, live in their comfortable little zones, and she's talking about, how these people are going to be impacted. Okay, but she's not impacted, right? A lot of these people, I see them, they're comfortably, they can stay at home comfortably, but they want to talk about somebody else who has to stay at home and they might be struggling with money. How are they going to get to a hotel? How are they going to get because she's not being evacuated. There's no fire going on where she lives at, right? And she's talking about green spaces that absorb this stuff. The green spaces where I live are burning up. So what green spaces? There's fires going on everywhere. And now we hit the storm season. And how are we going to evacuate people into an area? Nobody wants them to come into an area, if they're in a position where they think that there is no COVID, okay, and then you want to bring people into that area, who possibly may have COVID or be struggling with it, they're not going to want them in there. That's the same thing that happened with the Hebrews in the 14th century. The Portuguese kicked them out because they came with the Black Plague. The plagues stick to us. The curses stick to us no matter where we go. Okay, so there's going to be a whole lot of Hebrews that'll be running around here with this COVID situation because the curses stick to us. And they're not going to want to, if they don't want to walk in this truth, then, you're going to end up getting the same pestilences that's issued out for the world because you don't want to walk in this truth. So you'll be judged right along with them. Trust me, there's a lot of Israelites who did not put the blood on their door in Israel, and they woke up the next morning and found their firstborn dead. And they cried just like the Egyptians because they didn't want to believe, because they do not want to believe. When the Father says something, he says it for a reason. He means what he says. So if it's a command to do a thing, you should do that thing. But we have the laws, the statutes, and the commandments, and we got a bunch of Hebrews running around here right now who don't want to believe this truth, who just think that we're off our rocker. We don't know what we're talking about. But the test is going to come. And by the time, they're going to be like the 10 virgins. By the time that the realness of it all hit, it's going to be too late. No oil in your lamp. And I'm not giving you any of mine. Sorry. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. So let's go back to some of these lying untruths these people are telling.
Dangerous, and puts them at much higher risk. So, I mean, the challenges are great, and I think it's very important that we continue to talk about what we can do to best support minority populations.
Best support minority populations. I don't see no minorities right there. I don't see any minorities right there. Okay, so you know what? These people get on television and they start testifying, right? So I don't see anybody. So what are we gonna do to support minority populations? The first thing they show you is what, some American. I don't know what they. I can't even. They got masks and sunglasses on. I can't even tell you. But I don't see melanated skin. I'm gonna put it to you like that. I don't see melanation for the nation. I don't see melanation for the nation. So I don't know what that is or who that is or how they even going with that one. But anyway, so then we got another one, and they didn't use who I thought they were going to use, but we have another one here talking about the coronavirus issue. So let's listen in and see what this one has to say.
Over the past few months, we've learned there are different ways it's transmitted. So what are we supposed to do about that? Vicki Nguyen joins us now. So, Vicki, I remember when this whole thing started, we were wiping down everything, every surface, our groceries, all of that stuff. What should we be doing today?
Good news, you can save those wipes. Early on, Hoda, we didn't know a lot about how this virus was spread. Now the CDC says the risk of surface transmission is very low. You're much more likely to get the virus from someone's droplets if they're coughing or sneezing or talking at you, and they are.
Wait, she just said that you can stop wiping down your stuff, okay? I keep bleach water in my van, and when I bring stuff in my house from the supermarket or whatever, I have some soapy bleach water that I wipe everything down with. See, I don't care if you're wearing a mask, because you could be wearing a mask. All right, I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, okay? Where's my wallet? Okay. So, you have a mask on, okay? You have a mask on, standing at a window in the supermarket or whatever, and you got a mask on, right? Somebody reach in their pocket and they buy something and they hand you $2. You reach out with no gloves on and take $2. Put it in the drawer, handle the transaction, give them their receipt, they walk away. Next person stands up there, they buying something, they hand you $10. Okay? So you do your little transaction, and you bag up their stuff, give them their receipt, and they walk away, and you get to the next person walk up, and they do their little transaction, they hand you $20. Okay? You do the transaction, give them their change, reach in the drawer, give them their change, possibly some of the same change you took from the person before to give them their change, and you hand it back to them, and then hand them their receipt, and they walk away. Nobody sanitized their hands, not one time. But you got a mask on. What's the point in wearing a mask if you're not going to wear gloves, if you're not going to sanitize your hands? Money is the dirtiest thing rolling. So this woman is saying you don't have to worry about contact surfaces. Isn't money a contact surface? I mean, when we was counting money in the cash cage, half the time we wore gloves because we knew people was using drugs and handling money. I don't want your drugs in my system. So we wore gloves. We knew money is money. This paper absorbs. This is the dirtiest medium going. You're going to squirt down your counter and wipe your counter down, but you're not going to sanitize your hands. But you got a mask on. And so then here comes this lady talking about you don't have to worry about your contact surfaces. Yes, I do, because you're not taking care of your hands. I'm watching you hand people food through a window, and you don't do anything with your hands. You got a mask on, though. You reach out and you put a tray out there. They put their money on the tray. You reach up and take the money off the tray, put it in your drawer, do the transaction, put the change in the tray, and then hand it back to them. What does that do? because I don't want to touch the money, and I don't want you to touch me, and blah, blah. But it's the same. You just handled the money. Now you handed it to them, and now they're handling the money. What's the difference? Money is the dirtiest medium. You didn't sanitize your hands not one time, but you got a mask on. See, that's the idiocracy. That's how idiotic it is. The people don't think. You people are stupid. I don't wear a mask. I go places. When I work and I'm building on stuff, I put on those nitrile gloves because what I work on a lot of time has oily surfaces. And I don't want the oil in my fingerprints. I don't want the oil in my fingers. Because half the time I can't wash my hands when I go somewhere. So I keep bleach water in my truck. So I can squirt my hands off and wipe it off with a towel. And when I come home, like last night, I was feeling some kind of way. I stood over. We do the solution. We know how to do it in the pot. I put my ingredients in the pot. I put my towel over my head, and I stood there in the steam for 20, 30 minutes. We know how to do what we do. So I'm not tripping on your virus that you got everybody running scared from. But see, I know this much. She's saying that it might be the droplets. That means somebody could sneeze on something. That means somebody could cough on something. That's the very reason why I wipe off everything I bring in home. Because there are some people who walk in the store, once they get past the front of the store, they pull their mask off their face. And then they're walking around coughing on stuff. They're walking around sneezing. And people are very diabolical. I don't trust none of these heathens. Walk up on something and sneeze on it on purpose. Walk up on it and cough on it on purpose. We saw the videos when this all first started. People walking around coughing on people. What makes you think they've stopped? Why you think they've stopped? They haven't stopped. You just don't hear about it because there's nobody reporting on it. But that doesn't mean that anyone has stopped. So I wipe off everything that comes in my house. I'm not going to listen to a chick like this telling me, oh, no, the surface contamination is not, you have to worry about the droplets that come from people. No, I worry about the droplets that come from people on everything. On everything. Doesn't matter to me if it's not her or what have you. No, I the droplets on everything, okay? Let's go back to what this lying chick has to say.
Are sick. So that is the good news. And remember, last month, we showed you the first ever surface
Wait, let me back that up just a little bit. Let me back that up a little bit.
Ever surface test for SARS-CoV-2. We took it to a bunch of is the good news. And remember, last month we showed
further
you
than that. Hold on.
A lot about how this virus was spread. Now the CDC says the risk of surface transmission is very low. You're much more likely to get the virus from someone's droplets if they're coughing or sneezing or talking at you and they are sick. So that is the good news. And remember, last month, we showed you the first ever surface test for SARS-CoV-2. We took it to a bunch of public spaces all across the country, ATMs, restaurants, gas pump handles. You see the grocery cart there. We did get some positives.
I want you to realize what she just said, okay? Realize what she just said. I just said this a moment ago. COVID-19 is not the issue. SARS-CoV-2 is the issue. Didn't she just say that? That's what she just said. I've been telling people this for months. COVID is what they're using to scare you with. COVID is the end result. AIDS is the end result of HIV. When HIV is full blown, you have AIDS. Magic Johnson jumped up. I got AIDS. I got AIDS. No, you don't, Negro. You still alive, aren't you? Years later, you still alive. If you had AIDS, you should have died months later. You had HIV, and they were able to maintain your life by treating your HIV so that it wouldn't turn into AIDS. COVID-19 is the same thing. It's the result of SARS-2 full blown. That's what the lady just said. I've been telling people this for months. There is no COVID scare. SARS turns into COVID-19 when it's full blown. Dr. Buttar put that out months back. They kicked him off YouTube. They kicked him off Facebook. They kicked him off Twitter. Dr. Mikovits did the same thing with AIDS, and they kicked her off of, and they even locked her up and sent her to jail. So there's real science. Doctors out here saying this. This chick is saying, we did the test, and we took SARS-CoV to the, she just said it. She just said, okay, we're going to listen to it again. We're going to listen to her say it again, because I know that people just don't want to believe and don't want to hear, so we just going to do it again and let you listen to her say this all over again. One more time for the non-believers.
They're coughing or sneezing or talking at you, and they are sick. So that is the good news. And remember, last month, we showed you the first ever surface test for SARS-CoV-2. We took it to a bunch of public spaces all across the country, ATMs, restaurants, gas pump handles. You see the grocery cart there. We did get some positives, but we got a lot of negatives too for SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. So that's reassuring. The best advice now.
Okay, she just said SARS-CoV-2 is the virus that causes COVID-19. Okay, now, so for all you people out there who said I was lying and called me an idiot, you just heard her say it. Okay? Who's stupid now? You just heard her say it. Who's stupid now? I've been telling you for the longest, the science doesn't lie. Okay, now here they go. They went out to playgrounds and supermarkets and gas pump handles on the whole night and tested for it. And she just said SARS-CoV-2 is the virus that causes COVID-19. She just said it. I've been telling you this for months. Oh, you just a conspiracy theorist, Negro. You don't know nothing. What you know? You ain't no doctor. Because I do the research. Because I look these things up. The very reason my family can't stand me is because people like that just validate what I've been telling them for months. And she just came out and said it. Now who's stupid? Let's go back and see what else she got to say, and she can validate me. Man, look, y'all.
Now is to wash your hands after you handle any groceries, any packages. And of course, when you're out in public, wear that mask. Study after study has shown it is effective in preventing the spread of COVID. Get some positives, but we got a lot of negatives too for SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. So that's reassuring. A lot of negatives too for SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. Get some positives, but we got a lot of negatives too for SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. So that's reassuring. The best advice now is to wash your hands after you handle any groceries, any packages. And of course, when you're out in public, wear that mask. Study after study has shown it is effective in preventing the spread of COVID-19.
Vicki, a lot of schools are already back in session. Some are about to be back in session. There are some numbers that just came out that showed a 21% jump in children getting the coronavirus in the last 2 weeks. That's 75,000 new cases. It makes parents wring their hands a little bit. What should parents think about?
Yeah, it is nerve-wracking. What parents need to focus on and what they need to know is what's happening in their community. Is the rate of infection going up? Are they seeing people wearing masks and practicing social distancing? And when it comes to the school, ask the school, what is your plan for if there is an infection here or a COVID-19 outbreak in the classroom? 440,000 children have tested positive for COVID-19 in the United States. But the good news there is they're at much lower risk for complications. It's about who are they exposed to when they come.
All right. Didn't we just hear this woman say that SARS is the virus that brings COVID-19? We just heard that, right? So how do these children have COVID-19 if they don't have SARS? Come on now. Somebody work with me. Show me some gray matter. How do you have COVID if you don't have SARS? COVID is the result of the virus when it's full blown. So if you test a child for COVID and you see SARS, that means that they're writing it as COVID. Because the kids I just saw did not have full-blown pneumonia. You have to have full-blown pneumonia in order for SARS to have turned into COVID. The woman just said that SARS-2 is the virus that brings COVID-19. So if you do not have SARS full blown, you don't have COVID. So this is, again, right brain, left brain. This is, again, their fear mongering. And then you run with, see, I told you, COVID. Okay, where's the SARS? She just said they went out and they tested. They didn't find anything. Because SARS is the virus that brings COVID-19. So how can you test for COVID-19 if you don't have it? That means that they are writing it in. Personal story. My Uncle Bobby. You guys know I love my Uncle Bobby. My Uncle Bobby is the one who started me playing music. Uncle Bobby died in April. Uncle Bobby died of a heart attack, but his death was attributed to COVID-19. Because when you have a senior citizen who dies and you can turn their death into COVID-19, you're going to get paid. Every time you say COVID-19 in a hospital, they get money. Every time you say COVID-19 and we gotta intubate somebody, it's even more money. $30,000 when you COVID-19 diagnosed. $42,000, $50,000 somewhere in that neighborhood when you have to put them on a ventilator. It's all about money. It's all about money. This is the stuff that Dr. Buttar was talking about. This is the stuff that why they're trying to crucify Dr. Jensen right now. Senator Jensen, they're trying to crucify. Man's been a medical doctor for over 40 years. Got a 7-page document from the CDC telling him how to fill out a death certificate. I've been a doctor for over 40 years. I've been filling out death certificates, and all of a sudden now I need a 7-page document because COVID. They want him to turn senior deaths into COVID, and that's exactly what they did with my uncle. He died of a heart attack, but they attributed his death to COVID-19. That's so that they could get paid. That happened, that's me. That happened in my family in April. And so I stayed, and those of you who know me, I labored over my mother. See, because I wouldn't leave my mother's side, and I wouldn't leave her alone, they wanted to give my mother flu shots. They wanted to give her chemotherapy treatments. They wanted to do all kinds of stuff to my mom. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing any of that. And then they want to tell me I was living in denial. But you know what? My mother's death certificate doesn't say she died of anything. They told me my mother had cancer. Okay? But when mama died, they said her end of life was natural causes. She died. She got old. Her body just stopped living. She didn't die of cancer. She didn't die of anything. She died of just being old. That's what's on my mother's death certificate. Because I didn't leave my mother to the hands of the medical establishment who would have killed her with radiation and chemotherapy. See, because when you're old, they want to hit you with everything. They want that last push on your insurance, and they want to take you out. I said, no. When my mother goes out of here, she's going to go out of here naturally. And that's what happened to my mama. So this is why I tell people, advocate for your seniors, especially for us as melanated people. They ain't got no love for us. Right? She gonna die anyways. Might as well get this money. That's the way they think about it. And so I didn't let them give my mother flu shots. So, what? You're not gonna let her have? I'm like, no. You're not shooting that crap in my mama's arms. No. Because I know what's in those vaccines: mercury and fecal baby fetus tissue and animal and monkey and dog and pig. And no, I'm not letting you put that stuff in my mother's arm. No, absolutely not. So if you don't have SARS, you're not going to develop COVID-19. And to develop COVID-19, you would have had to have, flu shots that would have gave you COVID 12, 14, and 15 in order for it to develop cumulatively into 19. So says Dr. Michaelvitz. So says Dr. Jensen, Senator Jensen. So says Dr. Buttar. And those aren't the only 3 doctors. They're just the ones that they're still breathing. Others have been killed for saying this. Because it's about money. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. It's way deeper than you think. It's way, way, way deeper than you think. Anyway, I am, let's see here. I'm trying to see what I'm trying to see. Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay, we're going to go back to here. This is where I wanted to finish up, and we're going to call it a day. All right? That's where I want to finish up, and we're going to call it a day. So now, Matthew 24:29. Okay? This is where we are. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in the heavens. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. See, all those tribes, those are the nations. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with great power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of the trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other, from all around the world. Okay? So now learn the parable of the fig tree. When the branch is yet tender and put forth his leaves, yet know that summer is near. So likewise you, when you see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Surely and verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. What generation? The generation that sees these things. Not the generation he was talking to. That's been 2,000 years ago. Okay? But the generation that sees all these things, it's not going to pass until these things will be fulfilled. So we're that generation that is starting to see this stuff come to pass now. We're starting to see these things come to fruition. So we're going to see this stuff even in our lifetime. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. But of that day and of that hour, no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. Okay, so no one knows when this is going to happen. Okay, but as were the days of Noah, as the days of Noah were, or as in the days of Noah, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Now, here's my question to you: what was happening in the days of Noah? Okay? See, we already talked about this. Okay? There's nothing new under the sun. What has been shall be again. Right? Just like there was a first exodus out of Egypt, there will be a second exodus. So as in the days of Noah, what was happening in the days of Noah? Think about it. What was happening in the days of Noah? So he's saying that as in the days of Noah, right, these are going to be the things that's happening again. Read the scriptures. Look at what it says. This is not rocket science. You just read it. As the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Okay? So what was happening in the days of Noah? They were living lawlessly, right? The law's done away with, they were saying. They were living lawlessly. Giants running around everywhere, things, right. And what happened? The flood came on them all of a sudden. So people are going to be living just like in the days of Noah, and then all of a sudden, the coming of the Son is going to be. The same way the flood snuck up on them, the same way that the Son of Man. But he's not sneaking up on those who are in the know. See, the flood didn't come all of a sudden against Noah. Noah had been preaching this for like 120 years, 100 some years, saying, look, it's going to rain, y'all better get it together, it's going to rain. Nobody wanted to listen. Then all of a sudden, Noah and the animals that were supposed to be with Noah, because there was a lot of them, but some of them didn't, because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. Noah was told, when the animal steps up and he does this, that one you put in the boat. See, you guys don't even know that, do you? You don't even know that part, do you? And then the door closed and it was sealed. And then the rain came. So they're saying the same thing right here, that as it was in the days of Noah, So shall it be in the day of the coming of the Son of Man. Okay? So all of a sudden, the door of the ark is going to close. Noah was like the elect. He didn't get caught off guard. He knew what was coming, right? The elect are not going to be taken because they're going to know what's coming. So what was happening in the days of Noah? It's the same thing that's going to happen when the Son of Man gets to come. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking and marrying, giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Okay? I just explained all of that, and it's right there in the next verse. Okay? Then shall two be in the field, and one shall be taken, and the other one left. Then two women shall be grinding at the mill, one shall be taken, and the other one left. Watch therefore, for you know not what hour your Adonai doth come. But know this, that if the goodman of the house had known in what watch or what quarter of the night the thief would come, he would have watched, he would have stayed awake, and he would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as you think the Son of Man cometh not, for in such an hour as you think he's not coming. For in such an hour as you think not the Son of Man cometh, but in such an hour as you think he's not coming, be ready, because that's when he's coming. Who then is a faithful and wise servant when his Adonai has made ruler, or when his Adonai have made ruler over his household to give them meat in due season? Who then is a faithful servant and a wise servant when his master has made ruler over his household to give him meat in due season? Who is the faithful and wise servant? Who? The one that's watching, the one that's ready, the 5 virgins who had enough oil for their lamps, not the 5 who had to go back, because the 5 who had the oil went into the marriage feast. And when the other 5 came back, the door was already closed. The feast had begun. The other 5 were gone. There's 2 women grinding at the mill. One shall be taken and the other one left. One's going to the marriage. The other one isn't. 2's going to be in the field. One shall be taken and the other one's left. One's going to the marriage. The other one isn't. Because his oil was ready. He was ready. He was waiting. Blessed is that servant, that when his master comes, he'll find him so doing. Doing what? The laws, statutes, and commandments. Surely I say unto you that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. But, and if that evil servant shall say in his mind, my master delays his coming, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do this, and shall begin to smite his fellow servants and eat and drink and be with drunken. So then the master of that servant, when he comes in that day, when he looks not for him, and in that hour that he is not aware of, he's going to cut him up. He's going to appoint him his portion with the hypocrites, and then there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Okay? Now, family, I go over this and go over this and go over this and go over this. Okay? These are the days in which we live. This is what we're looking for. This is what's coming down the pike. Stay faithful. Keep your head down and your hands up. Men are always to pray. We need to be looking for the Messiah when he comes. We need to be on that page. That's the page we need to be on. Constantly, 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 constantly. Okay, family? That's where we got to be. You with me? I know you with me. I know you with me. Okay, so love you. Shabbat shalom. Hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you next time.